Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. I hope you're doing great. So today we're going to be covering some code. I think you've been waiting for this for some time. So we're going to be covering one of the basic topics, which is building an if-else statement, specifically using Python 3. We're going to be including a shortened version for the code that we're going to do to help anyone who's starting in their coding journey, or specifically Python 3 coding journey, will be able to do. So let's actually start. So as you might have seen from other videos, I'm using grip.it. It's an IDE which is very easy and useful for anyone who's just starting out their coding journey. So let's actually jump right into the code. So, as a good practice for programmers, we usually write the name. So, one of the simple ways. Another great practice is including the date, which is 9/1/2020. It's 2020 finally. Then we include the purpose, another good practice, the purpose or the title, so we can just say understanding if-else statements. Now, as you're seeing in Python syntax, we're using the hash, which is commenting out our code. This is why you're actually seeing it in gray. It's usually in black when we're coding, so that's just the syntax of Python 3. So when we're commenting it out, it's completely ignoring it, so it's not part of our code. So let's start with what we're actually doing in the if-else statement. So suppose, well, obviously we all know the wavelength has a visible light, and we're making it this time ranging from 380 to 750, and we're including all the 6 colors: violet, blue, green, yellow, orange, and red. And so we're dividing into 6 colors, and this is basically the if statement. So if anything is outside 380 or 750, so we're gonna show an error message. So as you have guessed, we're actually doing 2 versions of this to actually show what we mean. This is very helpful when you're starting out in Python 3. Like, all code is about is learning the logic behind these simple concepts actually. So let's start. So wavelength, I'll write it in camel style. What do I mean by camel style? So the first letter would be in non-capital, and the second letter, the second in, we consider it as a second word. So I'm just considering the wavelength as if it's 2 words. Then we're giving an equal sign. This equal sign, as we all know, is just an assignment. It's not an equal operation. Int or integer. So this is an integer function. Then input we are asking, and then we're asking to the user what is the wavelength recorded. Okay, so as you're seeing, we have, this is the first parenthesis is for the integer, and then this is for the parenthesis for the input. It's also very, very important to remember the parentheses as well as the quotation marks. These could save lives. Okay, so let's start with the if-else statement. So we all know when we start with an if, there is an if block and so on. So we said the wavelength is going to range from, for violet, it's going to range from 380 to 450, less than. So it's not really 450, it's less than 450. So let's start with it. Wavelength is greater than or equal to 380, and it's also equal, it's I apologize, this is supposed to be the other way around, because we're taking values that are greater than 380 and we're taking values that would be smaller than 450, and we're just going to be printing violet. Now we want to include other else's or ifs, so elif is the way to do it, so wavelength. Okay, so by the way, I might not have clarified on this. These are Boolean expression, right? So greater than or equal, greater than and equal, and less than, right? So this is, we've done this in algebra. This is just the way you're doing it in coding. And however, means that both this statement and this statement should be true. If any of them are not true, so the if block would not be executed, which is printing violet. One difference that I actually know about in Python 3 is that we're using the parentheses, so we're using parentheses here. This is a string, by the way, this is why we're putting it in quotations. So another boolean. We're just gonna be going the same expression as the above, but with different values. So also another important thing while we're writing an if statement is the colons. Do not forget the colons. Now, if statement is not the only one that uses a colon at the end, but it's one of them, and it's really important to actually remember what it does. This is for blue. So also indentation is very important. So an if block, a elif block cannot be at the same indentation as if statement or an elif statement, right? But a block of them would obviously be in the same indentation, but not their if block or if statement. But the statements themselves would be, so that makes it important to note. Which ends with 570. Visible light might seem not as much compared to other creatures who have a lot better eyesight than we do. And it goes until we actually reach our last statement. So might be asking me, well, this ends at here but ends at that. Well, yes, this is basically the question. I'll include a table right here and you would be actually seeing the table, how the table actually looks like. Why did I only include number? Yes, some wavelengths are a lot less in their spectrum than others. Sounds a bit weird, but that's how it does. As you see, you're seeing this little red line. You just need to do that and poof, it's gone. Usually the red line doesn't mean it's an error, but yes, if you finished your code and you forgot the colon, yes, the red line would actually stay. This is dearest yellow. Now you're probably thinking, well, oh, Python actually prints it with quotation. No, this is very wrong way of thinking. Python actually does not print the quotation marks. It is just there to tell Python, well, look, Python, this is a string, so you have to print it as it is. Even if, look, let's actually do it with the yellow, and then when we run it, you'll see. If I actually leave a space here, it will literally be printed with the space. This is basically called a white space, for anyone wondering if they heard their instructors telling them this. So yes, then we started with a 590, and we're gonna end with 620. Still have one more. Columns important. Now, does Python print certain things in different ways than maybe what you're expecting? Yes, obviously if you're using the print function, you're printing directly, then it's gonna print exactly the same as you're printing. But if you're not, then, or if you're printing, as we'll be covering in other videos, like a list or a dictionary, and if you try to print them, they would look a little bit different sometimes than what you would be expecting. So this is just sometimes important to note while you're working and understanding. Usually it's important to understand how Python, would react to when you input this, right? It really depends. Now at the end this is an equal because it completely ends at 750, and this is red. Last but not least is our else, printing the error message that we wanted to print. This value is not in the visible light spectrum. Okay, the dot and so on. What is a wave? We could just write it visible light wavelength, just because we want to make it clear exactly as to what it is. Let's run our dear code. So since I was saying about the yellow, let's do something between them. So a 580 and big error. This is very important. Python did not recognize it because I did not write it. That's why I showed a name error, sadly. So yes, this wavelength is not defined. This is very important to understand. Python is case sensitive, so even if you're changing the cases, it makes a large difference. So let's run it again and do the yellow, because I want to highlight the white space that is involved. See, there's a white space. Let's run it for violet. Let's write 444. Nice number. See, it's right there. No white spaces. So let's do second way of doing it, right? So let's just take these as good programmers practices. So sometimes RIP might take a while if you've opened it and leave it, so don't be very surprised. It's actually very important to save your work, because sometimes it will tell you like, well, your work will not be saved. So it's very important. It doesn't have to be literally saving it, but even taking a picture would save it life. So to actually see what the other code is, just copying it to make it a lot easier. So let's suppose we don't want it to look like this, and we may want to make it short and efficient, because this is how you're supposed to be doing your code, short and efficient. So short is really important, actually. Okay, so how do we do it? So I'll literally just show it in a minute. Simple things. So I'll write it and then I'll explain, because it's a little bit harder explain while you're writing. So suppose that we don't want to use a logical operator right here. We don't want to use an AND, right? In literally all these lines. Well, how many? If we have, well, ellipse 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 of them because there's 6 colors, and you're literally writing them 6 times. Suppose you don't want them, so what is the other way? So from the very beginning, you could say that if the wavelength is smaller than 380, or the wavelength is greater than 750, what will be the if? This. We'll just print it right here. How does this work? Let me explain. So this depends on sequential, meaning it depends on the order, because less than 380 could literally be like a 0, right? So this is how it's gonna work. So if we delete, well, we delete it from the end. And we delete this from the end. Why does it actually work? Because it's sequential. Now you'd be thinking, wait, we don't need an else? Well, not every if statement needs an else. It's pretty simple, actually. You could just not use an else. Okay, so let me explain how it is, and I'll just make it with a square bracket. So in here, it's starting. So let's say starting with 0, right? But then we go here, and we're above 0. We're literally like at 380. We're literally starting 380. So in here, you'll be thinking, well, this is magic. I didn't have to do anything. Well, no, you actually did. This is the thing. This is what's making the difference. In here is going to be like, well, you're starting with what? 450. I mean, literally, just see the magic when it happens. This is just the most important thing. If you get the concept and you understand it, literally, why when we start coding all that, they tell us, flowcharts and algorithms and all of them, you're thinking, wait, why do I need this? Well, you have to understand the logic behind all of this, right? So this would start from this. Literally, I'm just typing it to show where it's starting from. And it might seem a bit like too far-fetched, thinking like, wait, it actually works. And I'm actually going to see, that's a mistake. Python would read this and be thinking, you did not define this line whatsoever. Color coding things is very important, as you will actually realize it when you're coding, that you'll instantly realize, oh, I'm commenting this, right? I'm doing that. It makes it easier. 620. Now, suppose we literally ran this program and we made it on a -1. Like, literally. Suppose we ran it again. We made it something about more than 750, like something really far-fetched, like 1,000. Okay, that's a 10,000, but yes. Suppose now we literally just wrote 380. Are we getting it? We have to. See? So how does this really work? Because, as I said, well, it doesn't have to be 0. It has to be anything that's less than 380. But because we're moving sequential, so think about it this way. This is 0, less than 380. Just think about it, we're starting from a 0. And we said it's 380. So this is literally ending at what? 379. We go to this and they'd be like, well, okay, this if statement didn't work. Obviously, if it's less than 380 or if it's greater than 750. So for now, it didn't work. Right? So we obviously go to the other elif statement and it tells you, well, it's less than 450. But you literally just went through this and it told you that max was 379, right? And it didn't work. This was like, because in the beginning, you literally, so imagine this, you literally move any of these things, it's not gonna work. You literally, even if you actually made this statement at the end, it's not gonna work. You have to think of it logically. Because the numbers are going in orderly manner, this is how it's actually happening. So this is literally starting from what? 380. Why? Because the last one was 379. That was like the restriction. This is just telling you, look, this is literally 380 to 450. So because we didn't have an equal here, so this goes like 450, right? So it sounds like 449. That would be in the while 450, and then so, and because of this, I mean, you cannot change the numbers, right? If well, you can change these numbers, but you have to make it in a certain range. And you should understand that whatever this range is ending, and this is starting with it, right? This is ending 449. This will start with the 450. This will include being literally included in the blue, right? This ends 495. Well, 494. This will start with the 495. If actually a quick example, like ages, you could literally do this with ages, because obviously ages is like, you're starting from 0 up until, I don't know, 100 maybe. It's sequential, it goes by orderly manner. This is the same thing. The reason you actually made each elif line smaller is because of this. So I hope this is actually helping you in your journey to coding, and I hope it actually made you understand a little bit more about if-else statements. One of the things that I would tell people is practice a lot. Go and open Ripple and just, start typing code on it and do it every day. Be consistent with it. You'll see the difference. You'll be like literally doing amazingly in no time. I hope you actually understood the tip that I was saying. And obviously a lot of us beginners would start with this. This is not wrong at all, but there is even a better way of doing it, which is something like that, right? Look how small is this, and even OR doesn't have as much as weight as the AND, which is even a lot better. So I hope this would aid you in your journey to programming, and I'll see you later then in another video. Thank you.